All of the problems you have with writing, all of the gaps in your skills, all of the reasons why you haven't written the novel that you want to write, all come down to one thing, and that one thing is awareness. The difference between a great writer and a mediocre writer is that the great writer is aware of what goes into great writing, and the mediocre writer isn't. Now, this is a very obvious thing, but if you look into the nuances of it, awareness offers some real insight into how you should approach your writing practice and learning in general. When you focus on awareness, it changes how you approach improvement and I think will lead to better outcomes. Using this as a way to guide your practice and where you put your focus is going to give you a major advantage. Speaking of things you should be aware of, if you'd like to be more aware of my videos, then consider subscribing to my channel. I'm aware of all the people who aren't. Let's start by talking about what exactly I mean by awareness. Awareness in this context is the ability to observe a situation and accurately perceive information about that situation. This includes making predictions about certain outcomes and understanding the underlying causes and effects within whatever it is you are observing. Awareness around writing will allow you to know how a reader is going to respond to a certain description or whether a certain line of dialogue will enhance a character's voice. It will make you understand how making certain decisions around your plot will affect your ending, or how adding a certain element into your setting will enhance the mood or the tone of the story. When you are aware of how the choices you make contribute to your story overall, then you can make the right choices. And when something doesn't work, you can understand why it doesn't work and what you need to do to fix it. Awareness makes any problem easy to solve. If you are aware that there's a hungry tiger behind the door that you're about to open, then not opening the door becomes a really easy decision and leads to a much easier solution to the problem. Now you might be saying, Carl, I'm aware of the problems in my writing. I'm aware that my writing isn't where I want it to be. So how can awareness solve my problem? This is an important point to remember. You can be aware of problems, but not aware of solutions. Becoming aware of problems while not being aware of solutions is kind of a step along the path. The earlier steps are not being aware of the problems at all. If your car is making a horrible, metal on metal grinding noise every time you make a left turn, then you're aware of a problem, but you probably aren't aware of the solution. Similarly, in your novel, you might feel that something is off. The writing might feel flat. It might not quite give you the same feeling as the novels that you like to read. In this case, you are aware of a problem, but maybe aren't necessarily aware of the solution. It is also possible to not be aware of the problems at all, and this is the primary purpose of something like a critique partner or beta readers and editors. It's to bring to light problems in the work that you aren't aware of. Your awareness can be hampered by things like ego or simply by having familiarity with the work. When you write a scene, you're always going to be biased towards more understanding than a reader will, because the reader isn't in your head. They didn't create the work. You know exactly what's going on in that scene because you created the scene and are aware of a ton more information than the reader might be. If someone is only able to go off of what's in the text itself, then there's potential for confusion or for a scene not to land the emotional note that you want it to because you are working at a higher level of awareness than the reader is. You're aware of a bunch of information that they can't access by just reading the work itself. Your familiarity with the work will make it easier to understand and follow the plot. Your own feelings about the work can also cloud your judgment here. You can be in denial about the problems in your writing because admitting that those problems are there means that you have to be taken down a peg, which a lot of people don't like. This is where sometimes people will deflect and project and blame other people or external factors for why no one likes their work because they are not aware that they're ignoring problems within it. Awareness can also be built on an automatic sort of subconscious level. you will just automatically find and fix problems without consciously thinking about them. You will do things in your writing just sort of by muscle memory because that awareness has seeped so far into your brain that you don't even realize it's there. This is why the people who are the best at writing are not necessarily the best at giving critique or editing, and vice versa. People who are good at giving critique might not necessarily be good at producing their own writing. People who are amazing writers are probably working at such a high level of awareness that articulating why they make the choices they make can be difficult. On the other hand, an editor or a critique partner needs to identify the problems in the work and explain why they are problems and what can be done to fix them. That's a different skill set that relies on communication in a way that being a good writer does not. Being aware of problems in writing is one thing, being able to articulate those problems to someone else is entirely different. So what does this all mean? What are some ways that you can increase your awareness around writing and incorporate this into how you approach your writing practice? The first thing to understand is that awareness is different from just possessing knowledge about writing. Awareness comes from an understanding of mechanics, of an understanding of cause and effect. It's not just knowing a bunch of stuff, it's understanding a bunch of stuff. The biggest benefits from awareness happen when it's automatic, when it's ingrained in your mind. If you're making soup, you can follow a recipe by rote and see how much salt the recipe says needs to be added. But if you understand the mechanics of how adding a certain amount of salt to the soup is going to affect the taste, then you can know how much to add. You can sort of feel it out and get to a good place without necessarily having knowledge about it. If you're driving a car and you're going around a corner, you can do all the physics calculations and determine where you should brake and how much force you should apply to the brake and what angle you need to turn the wheel to. But if you understand how the car is going to respond to certain inputs, then you can feel your way through the turn automatically. You are aware and perceive what needs to be done to achieve the outcome that you want to achieve. Writing is the same way. The more you internalize the mechanics of it, the more automatic your awareness will become and the quality of what you produce will improve. The only way to do this effectively is through practice. This includes practicing writing, obviously, but with an emphasis on understanding mechanics and applying what you've learned. This also includes things like reading, because reading other people's work will help you pick up on and absorb what other writers are doing. I would also add that some kind of critique practice, so either if you go through like the online sites or if you're part of a writing group, something like that, any kind of practice where you are formally sitting down and looking at and evaluating someone else's writing to find areas of improvement is also going to help to increase your awareness. The people you work with in a critique situation can be more or less advanced than you. I really think you get the same benefit either way. People get all worked up about either not having anything to say in critique or not feeling like they're getting valuable critique from somebody else. Some of this is true, but you have to understand that the process of going through someone else's writing and giving critique is what builds up your skills. It's what builds up your awareness. It frustrates me to no end when people downplay the importance of critique. They are so focused on trying to use it as a way to improve a specific novel, but critique is really not about improving a specific piece of work. It's about improving you. Critique doesn't turn your crappy novel into a good novel. It turns you from a crappy writer into a good writer who can write a good novel. People get all pissy about having some rando on the internet give them critique, or critiquing some random person's work and that it doesn't tell them anything about their writing and blah, blah, blah. But critique is about working on the writer, not working on the writing itself. The point of critique is not to learn what needs to be fixed in a specific piece of work. It's for you to develop the skills to figure out what needs to be fixed in a specific piece of work. So all this blather about random people not being able to give you important critique, or you not having anything important to say about somebody's writing, or the information not being useful, all of that misses the entire point. You are what's getting worked on when you go through the critique process. It's not about the work itself. Sorry, I didn't mean for this video to contain a mini rant, but there it is. You'll notice that gaining more knowledge through things like watching videos or reading craft books or blogs or whatever isn't on the list of things that you should be doing to build up your awareness. And that's because, again, knowledge alone is not enough to build awareness. Can I share a dirty little secret with you? These videos, all of these videos that you're watching right now, they are not going to make you any better at writing. They might help with filling in knowledge gaps, or they might trigger some insight that you didn't have before. But the whole point of this endeavor, why I'm here every week producing these videos, is just to encourage you to practice. When you consume media around a specific topic, it makes your mind think about that topic, which theoretically drives you to more practice. That's where the actual magic happens. The point of these videos is just to give you content to consume so that your mind is thinking about writing on some level. And if your mind is thinking about writing enough, you theoretically will go practice writing some more. And that's the whole point of this. People look at information and advice and strategies and theories, and they try to figure out what's going to work best and what's the best thing to follow, and should I do this or that, or Stephen King says to do this and Hemingway says to do this, and on and on and on. It's like everyone just wants this thing that they can blindly follow without any doubt and without any assessment on their own part. They just want somebody to lay out the entire path to creating good writing for them. And they think that something that's said in a video or in a craft book or something like that is going to provide that. The truth is, if you approach writing from the standpoint of awareness with an emphasis on deliberate practice, then you will be able to discern what works and what doesn't. You will be aware of what helps and what hurts. This is especially true in a medium like writing, which is highly variable and highly emotional. Awareness will always trump knowledge. That's why there are so few concrete 100% infallible writing rules out there. Building up this hypothetical, theoretical doctrine of how you should approach writing, it's just not a good way to go about doing it. You have to put the practice in. You have to see for yourself what works and what doesn't. You have to build up that understanding. If you approach this with awareness, if you evaluate a given strategy through practice, then you will develop the ability to perceive what is good advice and what is bad advice. And you will know who to follow based on factors other than just how many books that they've sold. Okay, that's the second time this video has become ranty, so let's quit while we're ahead. I'm aware that this video is getting way too long and it should be stopped at some point because I'm perceiving that I think people are going to be bored at this point. So there you have it. I would love to know what you think about all this in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. Please remember to subscribe and I will see you next time. Do you want to say goodbye to the people before we leave? Or are you just going to sit off frame? Okay.